Hi, I'm Niels Johnson. I'm a technical evangelist with Symantec, and this is the next in a series of videos that I'm doing called Commentary on the Risk Landscape. This is simply my attempt at putting information out in the public to help you understand the risk landscape and or the threat landscape, depending on how granular we get. I am basing all of this on quite a number of years, actually about 20 years, traveling the world talking to individuals, and this is probably more about their influence on me than my influence on them. So I appreciate your being here. Let me do a bit of a disclaimer. I intend for all of these videos, literally all of them, to be more informational than anything else. At no time am I going to try to sell you something from Symantec. So that being said, in an earlier video titled A Working Definition of Risk, I had sort of a target-looking slide, and basically the germinal point there was that today there really needs to be an information-centric approach to doing not only risk definition mitigation, but specifically security issues. Focusing our attention on the information as opposed to the infrastructure is, I believe, absolutely necessary in this day. And so that sort of broaches the issue. So what does an information-centric business, or what does an information-centric approach look like? And that's really what I intend to do during the course of this particular video. So, an information-centric model, what does that look like? And where I have said twice, the focus has to be on the information. You cannot take your eye off of the infrastructure. If you remember that earlier video, infrastructure was the second ring out. It absolutely has to be done. Unless the infrastructure is secure, there's no sense of going on. You got to have a secure environment. So let me talk very quickly about the infrastructure. First, sort of generally, it really makes no difference what form factor that infrastructure is coming in. Everything that I'm about to say to you is true. I mean, whether we're talking about a physical environment, a virtual environment, a mobile environment, or a cloud environment, there's sort of some baseline attributes that have to be laid on top of that infrastructure. Obviously, security is one of those. Regardless of what the infrastructure looks like, it has to be secure. And I'll probably do a whole video on what that looks like and probably more. The endpoints, in whatever form they take, be it a mobile device or a desktop or a server, all have to be managed, and we're going to manage them from a variety of forms, both from a data management perspective and a security management perspective. They have to be secure, they have to be efficient, they have to be a lot of different things, up to date, patched, whatever it happens to be. If I'm going to do disaster recovery, business continuity kinds of things, backup is going to be a critical piece here. There's an ancient adage that says the first three words in any good security strategy has been, is today, and always will be backup, backup, and backup. So, and backing up the endpoints, however small, the microcosms and the macrocosm, is all critical. And then probably as critical, I mean, let's say the quiet part out loud. Doing a backup is not so I can put a checkbox in a compliance document. Doing a backup is so that I can acknowledge to myself that someday, way off in the future hopefully, or perhaps never, but possibly, bad things happen to good people, and when the bad thing happens to your business, you have, without any doubt in your mind, assurances that your backup processes, be they on tape or on drives or whatever, all of that information can be restored. We're not backing up again, to put check marks in compliance documents. We're backing up this stuff so that when the bad things happen, we can use those backups to restore yourself back to recovery time objectives and recovery point objectives, and we'll spend a day or a video talking about those off in the future sometime. But you have to absolutely drop dead know that that's going to happen. Storage management. I talked briefly in one of the earlier videos about the sheer growth of storage, and storage management is extremely, the lack of storage management can be extremely costly as the data rates are growing consistently up and to the right. I mean, the sheer amount of data that's rolling in. Data management is going to become, or storage management is going to become more and more important. And then it's about, getting as much efficiency out of the existing infrastructure as possible. Why is the really important stuff running on third-tier storage? Why isn't it running on first-tier storage? So squeezing as much efficiency out of the existing infrastructure is critical. And then as all this is going on, we have to acknowledge the fact that we have these, I'll call them customers sitting out there. Those could be employees or partners or whatever it happens to be, who is looking for this stuff to be available. That means the refresh rates are fast. Two, the data itself has a great deal of integrity, and frankly, it's all seamless. So that as far as the end users are concerned, they're not seeing or they're not appreciating all the heavy efforts or the hard efforts you've got going on in the background. So in a very general sense, that's what the infrastructure has to be set at, or that's where the infrastructure has to be before we can move on. Okay, so once all that's in place, once the infrastructure is there for all those various form factors, and we've got it secure and the endpoints are managed and all of that, now we can move up and have, if you will, a little more strategic conversation. And frankly, this first one, I get some pushback regularly. I don't want to say all the time, but I think data classification is critically important and will become more so as the data volumes grow. Data classification allows us to understand what is important, what's not important. Data classification helps me to figure out, hey, what can go to the cloud first? What needs to stay on-prem? Data classification helps me understand where I should invest in my security dollars. I think it's around data classification where, again, we can have one of those, what I call the intelligent clarifying conversations about risk tolerance. All data is not created equal. And so using data classification to drive some things, and I'll get to something rather important when we get to the next tier, but using data classification allows me to leverage, frankly, the infrastructure as best as we can, and two, to get as much benefit out of the limited budgets that we're dealing with. So, that being said, then there's threats. It is here that we really do need to understand, what the outside threat landscape looks like. And threats come in a variety of forms. Let me give you a couple of security sort of threats. I want to quote a document that we publish every year. It's called the Internet Security Threat Report. You can pull it down off of our website at Symantec.com. And I'm going to be quoting the 2014 report. We're about to publish the 2015 report. But the 2014 report says that in that year, the security industry as a whole, not just Symantec, all of us, discovered 6,787 new potentially exploitable vulnerabilities. 6,787 new holes in applications, operating systems, and hardware platforms. And I have a hard question for you. Obviously, you can answer it if you want to, because this is recorded. But the hard question is, did you know that? If you do the math, that's 19 a day. Did you know that? And it's right here where I'm going to bring up a topic for a whole video unto itself, and that's all around intelligence, actionable intelligence. Probably going to be the next video that I do. The whole point is there has to be some sort of source from which you draw, or some sort of source that you go to and pull back down from, that gives you a sense of what the threat landscape looks like. So threats are important, and the threats themselves, specifically, at least in this point, is very much about the security space. Encryption. I'm actually going to stop right here. I'm going to interrupt myself and do something I don't normally do. I want to go off and do like a little sidebar on encryption, because I think in this day and for this particular topic, it's extremely important. So let me start by saying that encryption in and of itself is not the silver bullet. If you think in terms of defense and depth from a security perspective, encryption, though, has a major play as far as securing the data within your enterprise, regardless of where it happens to be sitting. And frankly, I think, this is me thinking out loud, but I'm just, again, giving you some feedback from literally all the people that I have talked to over the course of a long period of time. My philosophic statement is this: all data, and I honestly don't care where it's located, all data on a mobile device, on a desktop, on a server, or sitting in the deepest recesses of your data center, all data in the clear is vulnerable. I'm going to be doing a video a little farther out that basically demonstrates what the bad guys do, all the critical steps that they will go through to break into your environment and to pull that back out. And the first thing they're looking for, the first critical piece for them to invest any additional development time once they've discovered, they've gotten into your environment, the first step is the data in the clear or is it encrypted? Encryption is the easiest application, I guess I can use that word, or the easiest technology to apply to your environment that's going to give you, in my mind, the most security for your data. I think you should be considering encryption for literally everywhere data is at rest, and certainly while data is in motion. Let me tell you, I like IT. They're my favorite people in the world. I talk to them all day long. But the point is, I really don't care how good you are. Security is an art form. The bad guys are constantly, knocking on the doors and banging on the windows and that kind of stuff. And encryption is just one of those critical pieces you can put in place to help buffer the expertise or the lack thereof of the IT staff. So let me give you a visual. You're a bad guy and you've hacked into two different companies. The data, the picture on the left represents the data that you've discovered on company A, and the picture on the right is the data you've discovered from company B. Which data block, which data repository are you going to spend more time discovering, rooting through, exfiltrating? And the answer is, hopefully, the one on the right. So my whole point is this: doing encryption is like, it's not the silver bullet, but it is one of those primary keys that causes the bad guys to rethink any future progress into your environment, especially if they're seeing only encrypted data. And more importantly, should they be successful and exfiltrate this stuff, what do you ultimately get? And the answer is not very much. So I have broken this video into two parts, primarily because of the recording restrictions that YouTube seems to be placing on these things. I want to encourage you to go to part 2, which is where I will pick up on that information-centric approach to doing security and information management. And we'll pick it up there. Thanks. Bye. For now.